Hey guys, this is Gino, and in this video I'll teach you how to get started with Bulma and SASS. So the first thing is, what is Bulma and why are we using it? Bulma is an open source modern CSS framework which is based on Flexbox, and it helps you develop responsive layouts for your website. Also, Bulma is built with SASS, so it is easy to customize and you can use only the things that you need in your project and keep it lightweight. And Bulma is purely CSS. So any JavaScript that you want to use in your project, you will have to add it by yourself, or you can Google it. Now, I want to make it clear that this tutorial is aimed at the beginners, and I am a beginner too. I had difficulties using Bulma's documentation. None of the tutorials that I came across used NPM installation method or SASS, and I particularly wanted to use SASS because SASS makes your life easier when you want to write custom CSS. And I wanted custom CSS because even though Bulma elements come in a lot of styles to choose from, still there are times when you just want to go with something of your own. So SASS is really helpful in that case. Now SASS has two variants, SASS and SCSS. And the syntax is slightly different for both. We will stick with SCSS in my videos because that is more like writing normal CSS and I am more comfortable with that. I'll be using Bulma's documentation back and forth to look for the things because that's how you are going to find most of the things that you want to use in your project, and it is a good thing to learn how to use the documentation. Now before exploring the NPM method, we will learn the quickest way to get started with Bulma. That is to simply link the style sheet in your HTML using the CDN link. This way you will be able to use Bulma without SASS. So we will go to bulma.io. And after that, we will go to documentation, overview, start, just scroll down a bit, and here you have it, the starter template. So what you can do is you can either copy this particular line and paste it within the head tag of your HTML, or you can just copy the whole thing and make your HTML file out of it. So inside the body tag, then you can start typing your HTML code. Like we have something already here, and it is using some classes here. So now we'll just save it and see whether it is working or not. So I'm going to go here, open it up, and you can see this thing appears like this. But if I remove that link from here, if I remove this particular line, let's just see what happens. Refresh, and now it is changed. All the styling is gone. So basically that particular line is all that we need. And now we will talk about using the NPM method to set up Bulma and SASS files in your computer so that you could use them in your project. But what is NPM? NPM, or Node Package Manager, is an online repository of open source projects, and it helps you set up all the dependencies and the files that you need to get started with Bulma in your system. And NPM is not just limited to Bulma, it can also be used for a lot of other things. So to use NPM, we will install NodeJS. We will go to nodejs.org and we will download the current version of Node.js. Open it up and install it. Installation is pretty simple. You just have to select the default settings, make no changes there, and just continue with the installation. Once that is done, you can open command prompt or terminal and type npm-v, and it will display the current version of npm that is installed in your system. Now since I am working on Windows, I prefer GitBash over command prompt. Mac and Linux user, they can continue with terminal. But for Windows, I will install GitBash as well. For that, we will go to git-scm.com and click on download for Windows. Again, the installation is pretty simple. You just have to select the default settings and go ahead with it. Okay, so now that we have GitBash and NPM installed in our system, we will head back to Bulma's documentation to see how we can use NPM to install Bulma. And this is the same page where we found our starter template. So the first step says how to use NPM. So we have to follow this command, npm install Bulma. I will copy that and I will go in the folder where my project files are. Right click, click on GitBash here. So this will open GitBash in the same folder. You can also use cd command to change the folder and come to the folder where your project files are. I will paste npm install Bulma and I will hit enter. So it will take a few seconds and it will install all the files needed by Bulma. So there you have them. Again, we will head back to Bulma's documentation and we will see how we can install all the dependencies that we need for SASS to work. For that, we will click on documentation, customize with Node SASS, and these are the steps that we need to follow. So the first step is to create a package.json file, and for that we have to use command npm init. npm init is basically used to initiate a project. So we will copy that. Again, the git bash should be in the same folder where our project files are. So I will paste that command here, npm init. I will hit enter and it will ask me a few questions. So package name, I will go ahead with tutorial. You can write anything. Version, again, anything. Description, leave it blank or up to you. Entry point, well, entry point has to be specific, which is mentioned in this documentation. You can obviously change the path and change the file name that you're using, but I will go ahead with the one that is provided in the documentation. So this will be our SASS file or SCSS file. So just copy this and paste it here. Hit enter. Test command, leave it blank. Git repository blank. Keywords blank. Author, you can write your own name. License, I will go ahead with MIT. You can choose any license that you want. Is this okay? Yes, this is okay. So let's just see what is the next step. Next step is to install dev dependencies. So for that, we will have to copy these commands. And basically, these dev dependencies are the dependencies that are only used for development and they are not used to run the application. So again, we will go back to git bash, paste these commands there, hit enter. Now it will take a few seconds, and even though it just shows you one command, we have pasted both the commands and they will run one by one. So this is the first command. Now the second command is running and now both are done. So at this particular point, our package.json should look like this. So let's just compare that as well. Open it up in any text editor. I'm using Notepad. You can use anything. I'm using Notepad++. So yes, main has that particular directory and file and it is same. Other things really don't matter. The name could be anything, version could be anything. Another thing that we have to check is the dev dependencies. It should read Bulma and Node SASS. The version may differ. So going back there, dev dependencies, we have Bulma and Node SASS. The versions are different though. And at this point, it is all correct. Now let's just see what is the next step. We have some extra stuff in package.json, but you can just leave it that way itself. It doesn't matter. Now we have to create this particular file and this particular folder. So let's just go ahead and do that. So this is the step here. Going back in this folder, again, new folder, we will name it SASS. In that we will create a new file, a text file, name it my styles.scss. And I will remove .txt there. Okay. So it is asking me whether I want to change the format. Yes. And I will open this file in Atom. So let's just see what we have to fill in here. Going back here, we have to copy these two lines and we have to put it in our SCSS file. So basically what it will do is it will import all the Bulma SASS files that are being used by Bulma in this particular file in which we will write our custom code. And this SCSS file is not readable by the browser. So what it will do is it will get compiled and it will give us the CSS file, which will be read by the browser and it will do all the styling in our HTML. So let's just save it here. Now let's see what is the next step. So next step is to create an HTML template. We will copy this thing. You can use the same template, the starter template that we used earlier. The only difference will be that instead of using CDN link, we will be using the local CSS file that will be formed once our SCSS file is compiled. So I'm copying the whole thing, but you can just change this particular line. That will work fine. So again, going back to Atom, this is my index.html. I will paste it here and I will save it. Now let's just go back and see what is the next step. So next step is to add these scripts in our package.json file. And what these will do, these will basically build our CSS file for the first time, and the second script will basically watch for any changes that we make in our SCSS file so that it could update the CSS file accordingly. So we will copy these. We will open our package.json, and this is, by the way, the script section. So here we will select the script section and we will paste that. Okay. And we will save this file. Now once that is saved, we will head back and see what is the next step. So the next step is to run this particular command in GitBash. Now again, making sure that the GitBash is opened in the same folder, I will paste this command, npm run css build. Now css build is the same command, same script that we pasted in our package.json file, and this will build our CSS file for the first time. Hit enter. Now see, it says rendering complete, saving CSS file. Okay, so now let's just check our folder. Here we have CSS folder and this is the CSS file. So this CSS file is made from this SCSS file, and this SCSS file is basically importing all the properties from bulma.sass file. Okay, so now we will check the next step. So basically everything is done. Now every time that you have to run your project, every time you have to develop something new, you will have to come back to this particular folder, the tutorial folder, or whatever your project folder is. Now let's say just I will close GitBash. So you will have to come back to this particular folder, the project folder. You will have to run GitBash here, and you will have to write this command npm start. So what npm start does, it runs this particular script, npm run css watch. And what watch does, watch basically watches for the changes in your SCSS file so that it could update CSS file accordingly. So you have to do it every time whenever you want to make any changes in your SCSS file. So once this is running, now you can make any changes in your SCSS file. Every time you will save it, your CSS file will get updated accordingly. So the last thing that I want to do is I want to run the index.html file and check whether all the styling is there or not. So here we run it and everything is there. The stylings are there. So that means everything is working fine. So that was it for this video. If you liked it, you can hit the like button. If you have any suggestions, you can let me know in the comment section, and you can subscribe to my channel to get a notification for my upcoming videos. See you next time.